Hello, welcome to Ultimate Talk here on Setanta Sports. I'm Matt Teal.
I'm Rachel Brooks. The fun-filled 30 minutes on the way as we're joined by Terry Ettim in the studio.
Rory Markham has a date with Dan Hardy next week. We'll speak to him about the big fight at UFC 95.
And Scroobius Pip, musician and UFC fan, is also with us. He does have a face. All right, we'll show you. There you go.
So, a full cast tonight, including Mark Gilbert from The Sun and Gareth A. Davis from the Daily Telegraph, as per usual. And remember, we want to hear from you as well tonight. Email us at views@setanta.com, or you can text us on 60300. Normal network charges apply.
Right, so Gareth and Mark are regulars. We know why Terry is here. This is what Scroobius is better known for.
Makes you a journalist. Thou shalt not lie to anyone under the age of 6 unless it's concerning major holidays. When someone dies, thou shalt no longer be of obligation to cry and say he'll be missed, knowing good and well he wasn't. Thou shalt not take the names of Paul Newman, Jimmy Stewart, James Dean, Humphrey Bogart, Groucho Marx, George Carlin, or Mitch Hedberg in vain. Thou shalt choose a political party based on their policies, as opposed to just going with who your family is always supporting.
So that is Scroobius Pip's video. Joining us in the studio now, pleased to say you're with us. I have to clear this up first of all. The name.
Yes.
It's a nonsense verse poem left unfinished by Edward Lear at the time of his death in 1888.
Yeah.
Scroobius Pip. That's where you got it from.
Yes, I did.
Why is my next question?
Or it's basically it's a poem about a creature that it doesn't know what it is. Basically, in short, it's not sure what it is, and at the end, it decides it can just be the Scroobius Pip. It doesn't have to fit into one category. So I can be a UFC fan and a Ponzi poet type rapper guy. So it all balances out.
Brilliant. I've
We'll
got the poem here, but I don't think we need to. You've just summed it up completely.
We haven't got time, really.
No.
We'll get into where you got your sort of UFC love from in a second or two. We've got to welcome all our guests as well tonight. Mark, good to see you over there. Everything okay?
And you, yeah, all good.
Yeah, all good. Gareth, had a good week?
All good, thank you.
Now, our star guest, sorry guys, I'm going to say it, Terry Ettim joins us in the studio. How are you, Terry?
Good, you know, nice, isn't you?
Good stuff. Now, the last time we saw you, we were in Birmingham, our first...
Matt was squealing like a girl.
Yeah, UFC.
It was the first time you went,
It was the first time I'd been.
yeah.
Yeah, and you thoroughly impressed us, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. A cracking victory for you. What have you been up to since then?
I've just got straight back into training, to be honest, you know. After the Sam Cell fight, I have to get straight back to things, and I've just got this fight coming up now. Really.
Talk us through, again, because, you know, a lot of people watching this are new to the sport, as I am, never a bit afraid to kind of admit that over the last couple of months or so. Talk us through the previous fight in Birmingham that we saw. I mean, from my fairly layman's eyes, it looked like a great performance.
No, yeah, you know, I was happy with the performance. I was fighting the #1 lightweight in Canada, so it was a big fight for me. You know, it was a fight I had to win as well, so I was happy with the performance and obviously getting the win as well.
You were an MMA fan, weren't you, before you started fighting? How did you go from being a fan to actually taking part?
What it was is, I've always watched it, you know, since I was young. And then I just started training, there was a local gym, and then I just took it from there, really, and I walked back since.
So, Scroobius, we heard there from Terry as a fan. He liked it, he loved it, he got in the octagon and started fighting. You,
When's
sir?
your debut?
I think I need to get training, really. Don't know, I've got to get my fitness up, and my cardio, I think, will fail at the moment, so yeah.
I think the beard's giving them something a bit easy to hang on to, I'm guessing. Yeah.
But as long as, if they're not allowed to grab it, they're not going to know where my chin is, so it's going to be hard to get a good shot on there.
But you have to pat it when you fight, don't you?
Is that in the rules?
I think what's brilliant about Terry, in fact, is that I love the fact that Terry was given a video of UFC #2 with Royce Gracie fighting when he was a 10-year-old boy. He became a huge fan of the sport, just decided to try out martial arts as well as playing football growing up as a teenager. And I think Terry is testament to any young people that want to go out there and get involved in this sport. It's a safe sport, it's a developing sport, there's a career in this sport. This is a guy who took it up. He's obviously a great fighter, a great athlete, and he's made his way into the UFC, and he's got a great name already. He's 23. You know, he's got a massive future ahead of him. And I think he's testament to hard work and discipline, and all the young guys watching the show that want to get involved in martial arts, this is the guy to watch.
So you said, sort of, you know, your interest in it was from fairly young days. How did you make the crossover there? What was your process in terms of where did you go to get trained, to learn?
I used to box first, and then I was training boxing for a couple of years, and then obviously being like a big UFC fan as well, I always wanted to train, and then there was a local gym, and I went down and started training. You know, like I didn't expect a few years later to be in the UFC, so I just got to saying, you know, with the hard working, you know, it's there for anyone.
But not only that, I mean, you've done incredibly well. You had 10 straight career wins. But then 2 defeats. How did those defeats help you?
Yeah, you know, they have helped me a lot. I've had to bounce back strong, you know, especially 2 defeats on the run. But everyone you're fighting over the UFC, every fight is a tough fight, so they were 2 hard losses to take, but I've bounced back strong, you know, obviously in the style fight.
Mark, we're going to ask you to assess Terry's fighting style, which is why we put you all over the way over there, because if you sat with there's a little bit of distance. But have you been impressed with what you've seen so far in his career?
I met Terry first just before UFC 75 and was immediately impressed. Very, very good character. In terms of his fight style, very good striker. We saw that in the Sam Stout fight. Good kickboxing, good boxing, as Terry's already alluded to. What I wanted to ask you, though, you've kind of touched on the Sam Stout fight already. You obviously... You had the 2 defeats going into that fight. How much pressure did you feel going into that? Because we've seen other guys cut with 3 losses on the skin. You can get cut.
Obviously, that's always in the back of your head, but I have to just take it as I take any fight. You know, that fight against Stout was obviously the most important fight in my career. So I had to win that fight, and you know, I've come through it. So
tell us a bit about the big fight coming up. Then, how are you preparing for it?
It's been a 10-week camp so far, so it's been going really well. A few of my friends have come over from Brazil. They're also welcome me training. So it's been a really good camp.
But you've never really taken a break. Were you training Boxing Day, training
Boxing
Christmas?
Day. Christmas Day off, and then we like
Boxing Day. Oh, we had Christmas Day off. That's almost lazy. Gareth, just lay out the stall in terms of what this fight means for Terry, his opponent, how maybe he should approach it, and then we'll get Terry's views on how he is going to approach it.
Well, I think this is Terry's 5th fight in the UFC, correct? Buchholz, Justin Buchholz, American, is 1-1 in the UFC. I think he's 9-2 overall, 9 wins, 2 losses. He's a strong wrestler. He's a tall man like Terry. He's a big lightweight. He's a 6-footer. He choked out Corey Hill, I think, in a recent fight. Corey Hill has since broken his leg, and we don't know whether he's coming back. But for both of these guys, like many of the fighters on the UFC 95 card, this is a rung on the ladder show. You know, he moves up the lightweight division. He's not ready. He'll admit, I'm sure himself, that he's not ready for a title fight yet. But this is the way. This is the kind of opponent for Terry to move himself up the rankings. He's not as well known as Sam Stout, who was Canadian #1, highly regarded, very strong striker. And what Terry did in that fight, as Mark was saying, was he stayed on his feet and fought Stout at his own game. He didn't bother taking it to the ground because he wanted to show the UFC, wanted to show the fans that he could fight in someone else's style and defeat them in their manner of fighting. You know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, what about your opponent then at the O2 then, Justin Buchholz? I mean, what are you doing between now? Very few days now. We've got what, 8 days, 9 days now.
We've got a couple of days left to say, and then it's just making way for the fight. Then they're easing down a bit.
Is there anything in particular you're focusing on? I know you don't want to give too much away, but
you know, to be honest, against this opponent, I'm quite happy wherever the fight goes. You know, with standing with him, happy that's on the ground. I think I'm a well-rounded fighter in Soji, so it's going to make for a very good fight.
Any problems making the weight, or
no, I don't really have a problem. You know, only a couple of pounds. So.
Talk us through. I'm interested in the process just before the fight starts. Do you chill out? Do you psych yourself up? Is there any music that you listen to particularly?
Yeah, I'm one of them fighters who's quite relaxed before the fight. You know, I just chill out with the iPod, and then when it's time to go, and it's ready to go.
Go on, what do you listen to? Dolly Parton.
A bit of it.
Love songs. Love songs.
You know, Phil Collins, The Love Collection.
Not like your iPod, Matt. What about? I mean, I'm trying to remember if you were in the same dressing room as Dan Hardy in Birmingham, or you were in the other one.
Yeah.
Right, because we went into Dan Hardy's dressing room beforehand, and he was so relaxed. There was a few moves being thrown on the mat behind, but Dan just sat down and talked to us before the fight and seemed incredibly calm. Are you like that, or you're gearing yourself up?
I just try and stay quite calm and relaxed, and then when it's time to fight, and then I just switch on then.
Actually, it was Sam Stout, the guy you pummeled, who was behind Dan Hardy practicing.
Who frightened us.
In fact, actually, it might have been due to us that you won, because we were just calm it down a bit. We're trying to do an interview here.
Never want to take the credit.
Always want to take the credit. Scroobius, I just want to come to you. I know we're sort of changing tack slightly, but I want to get you involved in the chat as well.
Definitely.
In terms of, Terry and watching the sport. So we talked about his love of it and where that came from. how do you even, as a fan, you know, we work with it, which is kind of where our interest came from, but how did you come across UFC and MMA?
Well, coming across it was working in a record and DVD store, and it was when it wasn't on TV over here really, but there was these huge DVD collections starting to build that, and no one was buying at the time, so I kind of had a look. I'd heard of people like Ken Shamrock, and then it was at the time that it was Shamrock and Ortez were having their big battles. It just